Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Thursday, February 17th, 2022. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here to discuss the final slate before the All-Star game break. It's a 5-gamer, and it's a staggered start throughout the evening, 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30, and then a late night hammer game 10:30 game on the docket. So we have a really interesting card here, 10 teams, good size. I think we've got some good value. We got some great pay-up plays. So very excited to dive into this slate here. Then Saturday, I'll be back to do a podcast for the Sunday All-Star game. There are some nice contests on the sites for the All-Star game. So we'll have that out on Saturday. So you have plenty of time to lock that in for the Sunday game. And then we've got a few days off before we're diving back in. We'll have a super busy schedule throughout. We've got a PGA golf going. They just teed off here a few minutes ago for the tournament. We'll have a PGA weekend lineup tomorrow night. So that'll be something to look forward to here for our members. And then, of course, hopefully baseball gets settled. That'll be right around the corner. So we've got all kinds of stuff going on. We've got some good podcast schedule coming up here next week. We're going to collab again with Gundacker, do a few live streams. We're setting up our trip also in July that is going to be on our in Discord for our members. It's a members only trip to the NBA Summer League, July 8th, 9th, and 10th in Vegas. So that's going to be a blast. So we got all kinds of stuff going on. All right, you're here to get the info on these 5 games, and let's get right after it. First game of the night, it's 7 o'clock game. It is Miami Heat at the Charlotte Hornets. Miami is a 4.5-point favorite. It's a 225.5 total, which is the second highest on the slate. 115 implied for Miami, 110.5 for the Charlotte Hornets. Miami comes in 37-21. Charlotte is 29-30. Injury designations, it's an important one. Jimmy Butler, questionable. So we're going to need that news for sure. Also, Caleb Martin is questionable. He may return. So, again, an important piece there. Udonis Haslem, not an important piece. The guys that are out, Dedmon, Hero, Morris, and Oladipo. For Charlotte, they have 3 guys that are still out: Hayward, Cody Martin, and Jalen McDaniels. And so it's the Martin twins against each other. And I read something the other day that's amazing to me. So Caleb Martin plays for Miami off the bench. Cody Martin plays for Charlotte off the bench. Do you know they've both been out with left Achilles soreness? How weird is that? That blows my mind. You know, that twin thing is wild, but we'll see. We know for sure, though, that Cody's out, but Caleb may play on the other side of the ball. So, and they're so identical. It's pretty funny. All right. So that game, let's look at the statistical aspect of that game. Miami's second slowest team in the league. They're 29th. Charlotte, the second fastest team in the league. So for the Heat players that are in there, massive pace up. You got to love that. We know Charlotte doesn't defend very well. They're 22nd. However, Miami does. They're 6th. So everything really points to, good matchup for Miami DFS-wise, not a great matchup for Charlotte DFS-wise. But you do have a very fair 225.5 total that's certainly worth considering. So once we get the Butler news, that gives us an idea of what we want to do. If he's in, certainly playable. He generally plays his allotment of minutes when he does play. So he is a playable piece at 8-8, which is very fair. Bam's been on a roll. He's 8-4 and playable. Of course, if Butler happens to sit, it really elevates guys like Kyle Lowry, who's only 6'6". His price has stayed pretty low. Duncan Robinson, more of a GPP play at 4K, same as PJ Tucker at 3.5. But if Butler sits, then you got to start looking or thinking about Max Strus at 3.3, Gabe Vincent at 3.9, or if Caleb Martin plays, probably on restrictions, more than likely won't go there, but he'd be 3.1. It seems like Yurtseven is starting to get a few minutes here and there, something to keep an eye on, but not enough for me to dial him up. On the Charlotte side, we know LaMelo's been on quite a roll. He's 9.4, though. Big commitment, pay up there for such a slow-paced game. Not as crazy about that. Rozier's price has also gone up at 8.2. Miles Bridges pretty expensive as well at 7.9. The guys you can consider on the cheap, PJ Washington's only 4.9. Kelly Oubre's 5.9. Those guys have both been getting good minutes, whether they start or come off the bench, and that could flip-flop either way. And then you've got that split at center, which makes it tough, but they're both doing a good job. Plumlee 5.6 and Montrez at 5.3. So not as cut and dry for me on the Charlotte side. More than likely going to have some heat exposure here, and that's about it. All right, game 2. By the way, those first 2 teams are on an island there. So obviously nobody's on the first night of a back-to-back, but we do have 3 teams on the second night of a back-to-back. And I bring that up now because these 2 teams that play at 7:30 both played last night. It's the Washington Wizards at the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn's favored by 4.5. It's a 216.5 total, 106 implied for Washington, and 110.5 for the Brooklyn Nets, who finally got off the schneid after losing 11 in a row and did get a hard-fought win last night. Coming into this game, Washington's 26-31. Brooklyn is 31-27. Questionable tags for Washington, and they're both very important. Daniel Gafford and Rui Hachimura. That is important news to have because it affects that rotation big time. And guess what? Kristaps Porzingis is out. Isn't that shocking? He never misses games. Never. And as a Mavs fan, wow, I do miss that giant, lanky 7'3" dude sitting on the bench in street clothes watching the game. It's a rough one. So Wizards fans, enjoy Mr. Tissue Paper Porzingis. Sorry, just a little raw, a little bitter. Anyway, on the Brooklyn side, we've got guys that are out, obviously. Durant, Harris, Irving, Simmons, and, no Irving because it's a home game. So a little bit tougher task here from Brooklyn, especially after the big game from last night. So statistically speaking here, again, both on the back-to-back, Washington 23rd in pace, Brooklyn 11. Washington's also 23rd in defense, Brooklyn 17th. So not great defenses. 216.5 isn't a great over-under by any stretch. It is the second lowest on the slate, but both defenses are not very adept, that's for sure. So where can we go here? You're getting a bit of for Washington, you're getting a bit of a split at point between Neto and Smith. Neto keeps getting to his number, but I'm not going to fall for that because I know as soon as I roster him, Ish Smith will have the bigger game, and I don't need that aggravation. The tough part is, are those guys going to be in or not? Is Hachimura going to play? That's important. Is Gafford going to play? That's important because right now it's been a Thomas Bryant, starting and playing decently, but still having somewhat of a cap for minutes. You're getting a lot of solid games in a row now for Denny Avdia. Denny is only 4-5, and we got to start really considering putting him in some lineups. I did use him yesterday, and he did just fine at low ownership. So Corey Kispert also at 4.3 has been decent. But the guy to talk about here is the one big mistake I did make last night. And I cashed in all 3 sites. It was a good night, but it could have been a great night is I just didn't pull the trigger on 9K Kyle Kuzma. And man, I liked him. I thought he would do well, but he smashed it. I mean, tons of rebounds. Makes perfect sense to go back to him here. It really does. But I do want to know, if those other two guys are playing, because Rui's been playing some 5. When he plays, he didn't play last night, so he grabbed some rebounds. Gafford also hits the glass. So I do like Kuzma again. I should say, I want to play him this time, but I want to see how the other stuff shakes out there. But it's undeniably really become his team offensively all the way around, since the trade with Dinwiddie leaving. All right, for Brooklyn, I've said it yesterday. I say it again today. I'm not sure what the deal is with Patty Mills. He's not the same guy that he was the last 2-3 weeks. He's just been slumped. So I know that 5-1 price tag is extremely, it's alluring. You want to say 5-1 for a guy that should play good minutes, no Kyrie, but man, I can't go there. I much would rather go with Seth Curry at 5-5. He's showing that he's going to make a difference in Brooklyn and be a good piece once they get things together. So he's in play for me. Bruce Brown's a hard guy to figure. He played a lot of minutes, had a good game yesterday, and he's only 4-5. So how can you not put him in the mix? And his counterpart on the other side, KCP, I forgot to mention, he's only 4-4. He only had 27 real points yesterday. So you got to, possibly look at those two guys. But if they guard each other, that, sort of counter the Spider-Man deal. We talk about that all the time. But KCP and Bruce Brown certainly fall into that definite soup there. James Johnson at 3-6 started yesterday alongside of Drummond. Drummond's only 6K. He had 19 rebounds. That dude rolls out of bed and the ball falls in his lap. I mean, he's a rebound machine. How much is he going to play on the second night of a back-to-back? Are there any, is there a concern there? I think Drummond at 6K is tough. I mean, I really do. His rebounding prowess, and he can score the ball. Washington has poor interior defense, especially if Gafford doesn't play. Johnson, possibly he's going to be in there to try to bully Kuzma around. I mean, you can think of him a bit. So there's tons of value in this game. And that's the bottom line. That what allows you to pay up in the other 4 games, you can roster literally up to 3 of these guys between Washington and Brooklyn with 5 or sub 5K prices and expect 30 minutes from a lot of these guys. So again, for me, other than the pay up to Kuzma, I think Denny Avdia, great play. You can look at O'Brien or Kispert, Seth Curry, the inexpensive 5-5, Bruce Brown at 4-5, James Johnson 3-6, and then Drummond just a bit higher at 6. All those guys I think are reasonable. Then you have Cam Thomas, the last guy I'll mention. He is 5'8", which is a little pricey, but he took a ton of shots last night. He's off the bench. He led the team in shot attempts, and that's pretty impressive. So if he's going to be playing with that much confidence and have a green light, he is somebody also to keep an eye on. All right, let's move to the 8 o'clock game. It's the Dallas Mavericks and New Orleans Pelicans. We have the lowest total on the board here. Dallas minus 3.5, 214 total. Implied for Dallas, 108.75. For the Pels, it's 105.25. Dallas comes in 34-24. The Pelicans 23-35. Reggie Bullock is questionable. Trey Burke questionable. Frank Ntilikina questionable. 3 wings, guards, some point, whatever. So they may be a little thin in the guard spot. Something to keep an eye on what that news is. 3 guys out, Chris, Hardaway, and Pinson. For the Pelicans, just 2 guys out. Larry Nance, another guy that misses more games than you can shake a stick at. And our man Cheeseburgers Williamson, we hope he's back in the second half because he is fun to watch. All right, as far as statistical speaking here, Dallas is the slowest team in the league. They've dropped back into that 30th spot. They're going to play bully ball with Luka. He's going to get the ball. They're going to try to switch him on to whatever defender they want to switch him on with that high pick. And then he's basically going to go one-on-one and either shoot or pass, which he's an incredible passer, and just run the show. But that takes time, and it slows down the game, and it takes away some of our DFS opportunities. New Orleans is 21st in pace, so that's not a help either. Dallas is a solid 5th defensively. Pelicans are 21st there as well. So, low pace here. That's why you got the low total. But it is Luka. Luka's been out of his stinking mind, and he's certainly a strong pay-up option for me here. If I get that Wizards and Nets value, it'll allow me to go up to that big 12-4 number. But on a 5-game slate, if he has one of his average games the last 2 weeks and puts up 70 something, I mean, that's where he's been. And I don't know how you catch up to that. That could be very difficult. So really, it's probably going to come down to him or Embiid for the real big pay up spot. Yeah, that's, again, my opinion. And there's enough value. Is there enough to get to both of them? That's going to be really tough, but it's possible. That's the nice part about this. When you can go stars and scrubs, you can take one of these pay ups and still have a medium build. Even though it's only a 5-gamer, there are a lot of different ways that you can build that lineup here. As far as other players for Dallas, if Bullock is in, that makes it tougher because he and Brunson and Dinwiddie are now sharing a lot of those second duties to Luka. And that makes it tough for all of them because Brunson's 6'4", Dinwiddie's 5'4", Bullock's 4'7". I'm thinking Bullock might sit because then he gets the long extended All-Star break here to sit. So if that's the case, you can consider Brunson or Dinwiddie. Their prices are decent, and they'll certainly be the second and third options in this offense because really after that, there are no go-to guys. Now, Maxi Kleber is decent. He had a big game the last game, but he is notorious for having 34 fantasy points and then 10 fantasy points. So buyer beware there. I would not dive right into that. He is only 4K, but I wouldn't go there. And then really the rest, Finney Smith, Powell, Josh Green, Davis Bertans, who hit some threes in his first outing. All those guys are going to be minutes, splitting minutes, and I'm not interested. So really, I'd rank them Doncic, Brunson, Dinwiddie if Bullock is out. If for the Pels, it's a little bit different. You've got a couple of options here now, and it makes it tougher. The Pelicans have fallen into one of those teams where they have 3 guys you want to pay up for that are lower of the higher price guys, but they're not cheap. But the problem is they're sharing usage. And I'm talking about CJ McCollum at 8.5. I'm talking about Brandon Ingram at 7.5 and Joe Val at 7.4. So you don't get any of them on the cheap. It's nice to have one of them for sure, but it's not a necessity. It's made it really tough since CJ came there. It's really difficult. And then the usage for the guys we used to squeeze in there as value, like a Graham, Jones, Hayes, Alvarado, you might as well forget it. They're just getting the scraps after the 3 bigs get it done. So in the fact that it's such a slow pace, slow total, and those 3 guys are big pay-ups, not really crazy of going there. I will say, though, of the 3, if Bullock sits, I think Ingram becomes a little bit better play because it changes the defensive scheme and rotation for the Mavericks. Joe Val is my favorite, though, of the 3. He would be the guy I go to. He's 7.4, which is fair. He's been higher than that. Now, yes, there's an inherent risk because he can get in foul trouble or he can have one of those doopy Joe Val games where he's just not totally connected. But if he's hitting the glass and playing hard, he's the exact kind of interior strong presence that really gives the Mavs trouble. So more than likely, I will be dialing up Joe Val at the center spot, and hopefully he keeps that really cool hair nice and gelled and straightened out, and so it doesn't get in his way and he gets any fouls. So sorry, I noticed cool hair because I am a bit challenged in that area. Joe Val, if I could borrow your hair for one weekend, it'd be all over, man. All right, let's go on to game 4. 8:30, Philadelphia 76ers, Milwaukee Bucks. Everybody's going to be watching this game. Great matchup, Eastern Conference powerhouses. I know Crash Davis is going nuts waiting for this game tonight. He can't stand it. He's so fired up. This is a fun one. It's Milwaukee minus 6.5, solid 224 total, 108.75 for Philly, 115.25 for the Milwaukee Bucks. Coming into this game, both teams impressive, 34-23 for Philly, 36-23 for Milwaukee. We've got Harden and Springer out for Philly, and for Milwaukee, we have Wesley Matthews probable. Who cares, really? Grayson Allen doubtful, so maybe it does make Wesley Matthews caring, especially with Pat Connaughton out, George Hill out, and we know Brook Lopez has been out. So that makes it interesting. They are a little thin at the guard spot, so I take that back, although Wesley's bad, man. He's not a good player. Statistically speaking, we've got Philadelphia 28th in pace. We know it's Embiid ball there, and that all's going to change when Mr. Harden suits up here after the All-Star break. Milwaukee's 8th in pace, though. They will push it, so it's a nice pace-up game for the Philly players. Defensively, you have two solid defenses, Philadelphia 10th, Milwaukee 13th. So, that's not wonderful news for us DFS players. But a lot of tremendous plays here. There's no question. Now, the thing is I would be careful of, though, is not stacking this game because you have two strong teams here. Yes, it should stay close, and that's a good reason to play it, but you're not going to get a lot of loosey-goosey points. These two teams are going to buckle down and play, and, even though the key players need to play a decent amount because it's going to be a close game, I think, you've got two very adept interior defenses here. When the bigs are playing with Embiid and Harris, they're tough inside. And now you've added Serge Ibaka to Portis and Giannis. So there's some good interior defense. But the guys that are playable, a little tough with Tyrese Maxey at 6'3". He's going to draw Drew Holiday defense. Drew Holiday, though, is playing solid ball at 7'6" and is an option. After that, Tobias Harris at 7'1" is really on the cheap. And I think, he's probably going to be the guy that suffers the most on usage when Harden comes back. It won't be Embiid. Those two will play a lot of two-man ball. But maybe Harris makes a bit of a statement here with that 7'1" price. But he's got that tough Giannis and company interior. So it's not a plug and play by any stretch. Joel Embiid, like I said, it's between he and Luka for the pay-up spot for me. Those are the two guys I think you have to really focus around. I know Milwaukee plays good interior D, but it's Embiid right now. If the season ended tonight, I think Embiid's your MVP. He's played that well, and it is a pace-up game for Philly, so he is certainly in play. On the Milwaukee side, does Giannis rise up? Now, I know Crash is listening and the Bucks fans saying, wait a minute, coach, hold on a second. You said the two pay-up guys are Embiid and Luka, but you didn't say Giannis. So what are you thinking? Well, here's my theory on this. Giannis, yes, awesome, one of the best players in the league. He's on and on and on. Can't say enough about him, not dogging him at all. But he's 12-1, so he's in that same price. You could basically throw a blanket around Luka, Embiid, and Giannis. But here are my reasons. Number one, Philly plays really slow. That's number one. Secondly, the addition to Ibaka is a really great addition for Milwaukee, but I think it takes just a little bit away from Giannis, as more so than even Portis, because Ibaka is one of those guys that when he's in the paint, and the rebounds coming up, he's going to go after it. So even though he's playing just decent amount of minutes, which he's playing good minutes, I just think that knocks maybe 5 points off of Giannis's total. Still can break the slate, et cetera, et cetera. But that, the slow down pace and just some of that depth now that Milwaukee's put together makes me rank Giannis below Embiid and Luka on this slate. Not all the time, just depending on the matchup. I think Embiid's in a better spot and Luka's in a better spot. So that's my thinking there, but certainly would never say to anybody, don't play Giannis, because he is amazing. Other than that, the guys, Chris Middleton at 7-8 is always capable of having a big game. Certainly hasn't been playing consistently to the level that we know he can play. But, we'll see. He may grab Matisse Thybulle defense, which is no piece of cake for anybody. So a little worried there. Bobby Portis at 6-7. Again, I think he's pretty solid at that price. You get him almost at half price of Giannis. He's still playing good minutes with Ibaka because Ibaka's backing up both of them. And again, he's wanting to protect his turf. He had to come off the bench for a couple of years in this league with Chicago and Milwaukee. Since he's been starting, the Bucks have played great. I don't think he wants to even think for a second that Ibaka could bump him out of that spot. So sort of like a motivated Bobby Portis with those crazy eyes and getting after it. So I think he's a decent play. If Wes Matthews doesn't play and Jordan Nwora slides back into the starting lineup, if that's the case, at 3-3, you can't go wrong because he's going to get some shots up and he's somebody to at least consider. All right, we have a 2-hour break to the last game on the slate, and it's not exactly a fantastic game for basketball, but it is a fantastic game for DFS. It's our number one highest total on the board. But before we get to that, just for 1 second here, if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, give us a quick comment in there. And while you're at it, hit that little bell button in the upper corner. That will alert you every time one of our Coach Talk podcasts posts. We bring these to you in front of the paywall 7 days a week. We really do appreciate you helping us move up the algorithm on YouTube by hitting that thumbs up, that subscribe, hitting the alert button, giving us a quick comment there as well. If you're listening audio-wise, Spotify, Apple Podcast, anywhere podcast can be heard, a quick 5 stars and comment will qualify you for our drawing that we have at the end of every month that gives you a full access free week of Coach Talk. And remember, here at Coach Talk, we feel we bring a different product, a different niche to the industry. We are all about getting with our members. I meet one-on-one with every one of them, talk strategy. We talk bankroll management, contest selection, strategy for building lineups. How do you weigh in, optimizer, usage, all projections, all of that comes into play for us. But the biggest picture is, how do we compete in this against the Sharks, against the 150 max entries? We try to build a couple, 2-3 lineups every day. And that's about what we do, because we feel that watching the game, seeing the reactions and who's playing, who's out, what each coach is leaning to do, all the pieces that come together that build those lineups give us an edge, and it helps us to compete. And let's face it, there's not a lot of people that can spend, $10,000 a night and max enter every contest. I think the average player does what we do here at Coach Talk. They're going to get as much information they can. We're going to provide you a coach's clipboard, which gives you a DraftKings Core 5 and several other players that you can choose from. We are giving you a full lineup on FanDuel, both cash and GPP, and the same thing on Yahoo. And on top of that, now we've added Prize Picks. Josh and I are both doing Prize Picks of the day. So we want to be a one-stop shop for you, and we want you to have a real strategy behind turning it around DFS-wise. So we've got a fantastic offer right now. If you want to join here during the All-Star break and say, you know what, I'm tired of making deposits and reloading, I want to go a different direction with my DFS play in the NBA, We've got a Luka special, $77. That's his number. And it takes you all the way through until April 1st. So dive in with us. You can go to dfscoachtalk.com to sign up. Okay, last game. It is, like I said, a 10:30 game, so it's a late nighter. It is Clippers by 11.5 at home against the Houston Rockets. 229 total, 109 implied for Houston, 120 for the Clippers, the biggest on the board. Houston limps in 15-42. The Clippers are 29-31. Important news for Houston here on two fronts. Massive news, in fact. Kevin Porter and Christian Wood are both questionable. My theory is they both sit. So right now in my early builds, I have them both out, but they are just listed as questionable. So that's something we have to be able to react to. If you're going to do late swap, we're certainly not going to have that news, almost definitely, until way after lock. So this is the only late game. So make sure if you are going to set one of these guys in there or out of there that you want to swap, put them in the most, advantageous spot that you can swap them and have a plan. Don't just say, oh, now I got to replace Wood. And then you have to go down to like a Zubats or something. That's just not going to cut it. So make sure you get that, under wraps. We'll be doing that for you for our members in Discord and be following that throughout the night. So those two pieces of news are huge. Garuba and Wall out. There's my lost 4 seconds every day, Garuba and Wall. The Clippers, we have 4 guys out. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Did you know they were out? And then the big one's Norman Powell because he's new to the squad, and now he's out with a broken foot. Terrible. Preston also out. So statistically speaking, Houston, number 1 in pace, last in defense. Thank you, Houston Rockets, for being the darling of DFS. So every game that the Houston plays, basically, you got to love it because they're the fastest pace and they don't play defense. It is the second night of a back-to-back for them, though, so it is something to keep an eye on there. Island game for the Clippers. Clippers are 14th in pace, so no problem there. Clippers are 8th defensively. So for the Clippers, this is beautiful. Best pace up you can get, worst defense you can get. And it brings all these guys in play, in my opinion. Reggie Jackson at 6'8", Terrence Mann at 5'1", Marcus Morris at 6'2", Nicholas Batum at 4'2". And after that, I'm not sure. I don't feel as comfortable with Zubats, Coffey, Kennard, Covington, Hartenstein. I think that first group are your best options, and their prices are fantastic. So, definitely have some interest there. Maybe a couple of guys, a Morris, a Jackson, I'd feel really good about. Definitely hitting that side of it. On the Houston side, it all has to do with the news. As of right now, like I said, I'm counting Wood out, but that's a questionable tag. And Sengun's probably the plug and play lock washer of the day. He's only 4'5", and if he starts at center, he smashed the slate last night again. We had him, and he's just so good, man. I mean, he needs to play. I don't know why they don't just play Wood and Sengun next to each other every game. But if Wood's out, Sengun's in, he's going to be like 1,000,000% owned. But I think you got to take the free square here at that price. Other than that, with Porter out, it does give some interest to Jalen Green at 4'7", who's improving. Eric Gordon had one of his nights last night. Good luck figuring that dude out, man. And last year, he was my guy. I could hit when he played well. I could hit it. This year, I can't. He's so hard to figure. He's only 3'8", but there are some games he does almost nothing. And then last night, he chucks up 21 shots and has a really good game. So, I mean, you can go back to him. There's some definite risk there, but he is a possibility. The guy that's the real wild card here that I like, and I'm hoping Porter's out because I want to play him, is Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder is a guy to put a big circle around, not just for this game, but for the second half. He's a guy that passed up a big contract to stay with the Lakers. I think it was like $74 million or something ridiculous. He wanted to gamble on himself and go play a year and then become a free agent. That hasn't worked out that well because he got traded now. He's at Houston. And now it's, is he going to get noticed? Is he going to get that look in the offseason? The only way that's going to happen is if he has a heck of a second half. So I think he is going to get good minutes for them. He is a really good scorer, and he is going to be playing his butt off and chucking shots all over the place because he's playing for a contract. So you will see Dennis Schroeder in a lot of my lineups for Houston in the second half. And I'm hoping he gets those, at least 28 plus minutes every night because he will get to his number. Trust me. He's a bit motivated. So other than that, though, good game to finish with. I'll certainly have some exposure here. I think it could make a big difference to have a few live guys in that last game that really have some good potential. All right, my friends, that is it. I can't believe the first half of the NBA is over. I am just shocked. It has been so wild. Last night, we had to change our lineups 3 times. First time that's ever happened to us, Coach Talk, where we had to go the third lineup before lock. But it paid off. We had some winners, and that's the NBA right now, with all the movement going on and all the changes. And it's fun, though. If you follow it, and you stay on it, it gives you a giant edge. And we know we like that. When it's too simple, it makes it too easy for everybody else to play. So come join us, dfscoachtalk.com. We'd love to have you. And again, I'll be back on Saturday for the preview and the lineups and plays for that NBA All-Star Showdown slate. All right, have a great Thursday. And let's just absolutely crush it tonight in NBA DFS.